Hey everyone, I wanted to have a conversation for a little bit about this issue of injustice. And let me just start off by saying, if you are a Christian, you should hate injustice no matter what color you are. If you are an African American Christian and there is an injustice that happens to a white person, you need to take your color off of the shelf and put your Christian character on display and show compassion towards the injustice that happened to that white person. If you are a white Christian and there is an injustice that happens to an African American person or a person of any color that is different than you, then we have the responsibility to take off our color and put on our Christian character and show compassion and love towards the person that is experiencing this injustice. So if we are a Christian and we know that the Bible clearly teaches that God hates injustice again and again and again, then that means that we should hate it as well. But the issue that I want to deal with in this video is when injustice happens and justice is not served to the degree or the way in which we believe that it should, how should we as Christians respond whenever we see injustices happening in our society? Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with this, yesterday a verdict was handed down against a woman by the name of Amber Guyger. And it's actually closer to home here for those of us who live in Dallas because it actually happened in Dallas. But sometime last year, this white female police officer named Amber Guyger, she got off of a very long shift after working 13 hours or so. She goes home to her apartment complex and goes to what she believes, or so she says, what is her apartment. It turns out that she went to the wrong floor and she was fiddling with her keys. She tried to get into what she believed was her apartment. When she opens the door, she sees, to her surprise, an African-American male sitting on the couch eating some ice cream, and she believed it was an intruder that was trying to get into her apartment, and so she reacted and shot and killed this young African-American male who was 26 years old. His name is Botham Jean. And so, surprisingly, she did not follow the proper protocol to get him the help, the medical help that she should have gotten him. And as a result, this young man died. But yesterday, there were two things that happened in court that were literally historic, that never happened probably in the history of all the courts. When this young man's brother named Botham Jean, he was on the witness stand and he asked the judge for permission to come off of that witness stand and give Amber Guyger, the white female police officer who killed his own brother and murdered his own brother, he asked her the right to be able to come and give this woman an embrace, a hug, which is the epitome of demonstrating Christian forgiveness. And to my surprise, you would think that Christians all over social media would just be celebrating the fact that this young man took an opportunity to put his Christian character on display and demonstrate an extreme level of forgiveness towards this woman that murdered his own brother. But to my surprise, we have a lot of Christians, and if I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of Christians of color that were literally so angry about the sentence that this woman received that we did not take an opportunity to put our Christian character on display. Let me explain what I mean. Here is this young man, and if anybody had the right to be angry and unforgiving towards this white female police officer for what she had done, it was the brother of the deceased. But this young man, being the Christian that he was, saw this as an opportunity to put his Christian character on display. He said, you know what? This is probably going to be aired throughout the entire world. And so instead of people seeing me be angry and unforgiving and resenting this woman and being bitter towards her and calling her names and calling her out of all these different things that I saw people doing on social media against this woman, he said, man, how would it be if I could show people, show the world what true, genuine, authentic Christian forgiveness actually looks like? People who were in that courtroom were saying they have never seen anything like this. So can you imagine the effect that when this video goes viral throughout the entire world, non-Christians will say, wow, Christians are able to forgive somebody who killed their own innocent loved one. This was the opportunity that he took advantage of. But whenever I went on social media last night and I saw Christians who were calling this woman out of her name, calling her a bitch, using acronyms like WTF, and we know what all those three letters mean, we were essentially not taking advantage of the opportunity to put our Christian character on display. What I saw was anger and bitterness and utter disdain and hatred, and even people hoping that something bad would happen to this white female police officer whenever she went to prison. Let me just say this. If we are Christians, we don't have the right to put our color in front of our character. We don't have the right to put our emotions in front of our character. We don't have the right to put our political views in front of our character. Essentially, what we're doing whenever we express ourselves in those type of ways on social media is we're basically saying, God, I don't care what people think about Jesus. I don't care, God, what people think about me. I don't care what they think about Christians. I really don't care what they think about Christianity. Right now, I'm going to express my emotions, and it's all about me. It's all about how I feel. It's all about how I need to get my feelings out there, and I need to express myself. And when we do that, essentially what happens is people don't see Christ at all, because our Christian character is hidden behind our color. It's hidden behind our political beliefs. It's hidden behind our emotions and how we feel about a certain situation, so that when people see our posts, whenever they hear our words, they don't see Christ at all. What they see is us. And we have to ask ourselves the question, what are people supposed to see whenever we experience injustice? It's not that they can see us. We want to make sure that they are able to see Christ. And that's why I commend this young man, because he saw this as an opportunity to show the world what true Christian character looks like. Now I want to deal with the second major historic thing that actually happened in that courtroom, and that is the fact that this judge, who happened to be an African-American female judge, and the jury that was 60% minority, instead of handing this woman the maximum sentence of 99 years for murder, they decided to sentence her to only 10 years in prison. But more importantly than that, essentially what happened was this judge came down from her judge stool, and instead of handing this woman a max sentence, she handed this woman a Bible and instructed her to get her life right with Jesus Christ while she was in prison. Now, once again, instead of Christians celebrating this amazing act of mercy by this African-American female judge towards a white female police officer and the jury as well, we have Christians that are expressing their anger over this sentence. Let me just challenge you with this thought. Isn't it a bit hypocritical for us to go to God whenever we do things that offend God, and we beg and plead God to not deal with us according to what our sins deserve? But yet, whenever someone else is in the position to receive mercy, we get angry whenever they receive mercy, but we're very, very happy to receive that same mercy when God gives it to us. When you think about all the different things that you've done in your life that have deserved the extreme level of justice in terms of how God would deal with us, and when you look at all the things that you have probably gotten away with, that God has shown you mercy, I think it's a bit hypocritical whenever someone else experiences mercy and we get angry about that. And so the final thing I'll say is this: whenever injustice happens and justice is not served the way you believe that it should, essentially, whenever we get so angry about this, what we're really saying is, and we're not really saying it verbally, but this is really what we're saying: God, I don't really trust you. I don't have enough faith to believe that you are in heaven and that you saw the injustice and that somehow or another you are going to balance the scales according to your justice. See, we have to always remember and understand that even if the courts get it wrong, and even if the courts do not administer the justice that really needs to happen, There is a greater court, there's a higher court that every single one of us are going to have to stand before one day. And my friend, whenever we stand before that judge, there will not be anything that's unfair happening. There is not going to be any injustice at that time because God is the righteous and ultimate judge. So when injustices happen, should we stand up against them? Absolutely. Should we stand against them? Absolutely. Should we stand up for the people that cannot take care of themselves, for the poor, for those who are less fortunate, for those who cannot get a fair trial in court? Absolutely, that's biblical. But whenever injustice happens, we need to make sure as Christians that we always put our Christian character on display so that at all times people see Jesus and they don't see us.